Right, Scott. Here we go. Time to persevere this recommendation.
You are entering another dimension, a dimension of dumbos, of ding-dongs, a dimension of the mindless,
Us mindless?
of arguments without substance.
We have no substance?
The bad take zone.
Sure, whatever you have to say.
Oh, hello. It's me, Uslan, from ThoughtTube. And I want to talk about Nazis again for some reason.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. That's right. You want to talk about Nazis.
Short answer? No, not really. Long answer? No, of course not. Why do you keep asking me this?
Because you don't like facts?
The word Nazi is indeed an abbreviation of the term National Socialist German Workers' Party. The party of Adolf Hitler was viciously anti-socialist.
How the hell did you even work that logic out? I feel like my brain's about to fry.
And murdered them. Remember, first they came for the communists. And it's true that the Nazis self-identified as socialist, and used lots of socialist rhetoric when it suited them to do so. But their policies were anything but socialist.
Right, okay, so nationalising education and healthcare isn't socialist?
And democratize their workplace. That's not a very socialist thing to do. Socialists believe that private property, which is to say the right for people or private institutions to own things that everyone needs to live, should be abolished. In contrast, the term privatization,
Yeah.
meaning taking stuff that is collectively owned and giving it to a private
But there's the issue. It was put into the hands of the state to completely control the means of the private sector through strong government regulation.
This is a quote from an article called The Coining of Privatization and Germany's National Socialist Party. In fact, Nazis coined the term. Their intent was to skew the distribution of income towards the rich with the objective of reducing consumption.
Right, however you work that logic out.
Skewing income in favor of the rich? You really can't get less socialist than that. That is literally the opposite of everything that's
Oh, my brain. Alright, okay, yeah, sure.
It's also played a huge role in resisting the rise of the Nazis through grassroots anti-fascist vigilante action. You might have seen this symbol before. It's nowadays used as a generic
Yeah, we've seen that symbol all right before. We've seen that one from Three Arrows. Yeah.
paramilitary group that clashed with Nazis in the streets of Weimar or Weimar, Germany. I'm never sure which one is correct. And they were comprised mainly of anti-authoritarian.
How the hell did he even work that logic out? My brain's about to explode. What the hell is he talking about? An anti-authoritarian socialist? How the hell did you even work that logic out?
Fascists really, really hate socialists. If you don't believe me, check out the comment section and see how many of them are threatening to throw me out of a helicopter right now. Ever heard the term cultural Marxism used by anti-socialist wieners? Well, they might not know this, but they're actually using a corrupted version of the term cultural Bolshevism, coined by Hitler, to describe an alleged Jewish conspiracy to introduce
Ah, that's right. You can't even pronounce the word degeneracy. Yeah, it really is a handful. Oh yeah, it's such a difficult word.
I'm reading a script, and I included the phrase "introduce degeneracy." Yeah, you're dumb mouth. You wouldn't be able to read that with your dumb, stupid tongue.
Oh, we know you're dumb, alright.
Designed to introduce degeneracy into the public psyche using modern art and nihilism and advanced mathematics. And it's all nonsense. The Nazis were really dumb.
Yeah, they were really dumb, we know. But does that make you any more intelligent?
You're probably saying to yourself, okay, Mr. Smarty Boy, how come them Nazi fellas was called National Socialist if they weren't so socialist? And the answer is pretty obvious. Really, they wanted people to think that they were socialists.
What the fuck? How did he even draw? What? Right, yeah. They just called themselves socialists for the sake of it. Yeah, right. Okay.
Maybe you've seen this image floating.
Oh, here we go again. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, for fuck. Oh, my brain. I can't help but laugh at this idiot. He's just too stupid.
This system. Well, that's pretty damning stuff, right? If Hitler said that, then he was definitely...
Yeah, even although George Bernard Shaw called both Mussolini and Hitler a socialist, but okay.
Hitler didn't say it. Gregor Strasser did. And that's, you know, a small correction, because Strasser was still a Nazi bigwig, so that's still pretty damning. Except that Strasser was later murdered in the Night of Long Knives by Hitler and his pals as they purged the party of political dissidents. And Strasser was murdered specifically for the vague...
Right, so this apparently makes him an anti-socialist.
Lastly, there's one argument that critics of socialism love to use to smear us by painting socialists and fascists under the same broad brush. Collectivism.
Oh, wait, so what are you trying to say here?
That since both socialists and fascists allegedly want to collectivize power...
Yeah. It actually does. Yeah, it actually does. They are on the same spectrum. They're both collectivists.
I'm gonna do another video about the left-right political spectrum and the false dichotomy of collectivism versus individualism at some point, but suffice to say, the fascists were by no means collectivist.
What did he just say? What the fuck did he just deny they were collectivists?
I don't know how you get more individualistic than literally giving all power to one individual.
He actually just did. He actually pulled off mental gymnastics.
Nazis wanted to regiment political power along strict hierarchical lines. Everything from their economic policy to their racist pseudoscience to their violent opposition of leftists demonstrates this beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt. If anyone tells you that the Nazis were leftists or socialists in particular, they're dumbos. And they don't know
Jesus Christ.
or they're trying to manipulate you and they think you're stupid. So, don't listen to them, because it's wrong.
This boy clearly does not understand the definitions of individualism and collectivism, and we know that everything boils down to what you put into practice over that of theory. Now, of course, he could try and redefine the theory of collectivism as much as he wants, but we can get a clear view of the difference between individualism and collectivism. The definition of individualism is very clear. It means that it's the freedom of the individuals of society that is free from state control over the direction of the economy. Therefore, individualism is about placing the individual, and it's referring to the people. In other words, each and every single individual of society who are free to pursue their own economic goals and paths in the absence of state intervention. In other words, the difference between individualism and collectivism is the fact that the individual is the primary element of the economy, and under individualism, the state is nothing other than a servant and protector of individuals' private property rights. And rights are natural under individualism, therefore this is what we call negative rights. Negative rights meaning each and every single individual has the right to agree to disagree with one another freely and mutually in a free market system. Collectivism is where the rights of the individual are subordinated to that of the group. So the group is placed above that of the individual. Irrespective of whether these people wish to argue that collectivism is, in the hands of workers and workers' control or ownership of the means of production, it doesn't matter. The primary element under collectivism is either through this group or the state. And you could look at various different dictionary definitions of socialism, and you will find in there, along the lines of governmental ownership of the means of production, or you'll find, state ownership, etc., etc. You will find it somewhere across various different dictionary definitions. Don't just look at one. When you speak about collectivism And we're speaking about collectivism in practice, not the collectivism that is in his theoretical fantasy world, but the collectivism we saw of the Roman Empire, the collectivism we saw of the Soviet Union, the collectivism we saw of the Nazi Germany's regime, or that under, communist Allende or communist China through Mao Zedong. And the difference, and the reason why it's opposite of individualism, is because individualism, by definition, is the freedom from government intervention. Collectivism is where you subordinate the rights of individuals, you take away their right and you force them into a collective group to force them to obey that of the main element. This was the same Nazi Germany that politically centralised, another word for that would be to collectivise, right? It politically centralised and collectivised education. It done it through healthcare. It done it through the automobile industry, as it nationalised the automobile industry. After all, that's what you're doing. When you nationalise something, you are essentially collectivising it. You're centralising it. That's what it means. Politically centralised radio and, of course, newspaper, so that, the state would be the main element and controller over what they would read and what they would listen to. This pertains to that of socialism because it's political centralisation. If that was based around true private ownership, because this is what he doesn't want to touch upon, it would be down to private individuals in a free market system where there is fierce competition of all these different, media companies, etc., through newspaper or through radio, and the people of society would be free to listen to whatever the hell that they like, right? It would not be controlled through that of government. And you've seen from the definition of individualism, it's pretty clear. It's about the freedom of the economy from government intervention. So how he can try and pass off individualism as something that of Nazism is just truly unbelievable, because it pertains to that of a free market economy. The whole thing about Nazi Germany, the private sector was strongly regulated by the state. So he's telling lies. It was not in the hands of private individuals. He's right for saying that when you basically take it out the hands of the collective and you put it into the hands of the individual, then it's not socialism. He's right for saying that. But where he's going wrong is the fact that he doesn't understand the difference between true private ownership and that of a private sector that really isn't private. How can you claim to be the private business owner of a company that the state is practically controlling? If you look under the word ownership, you will find the word control exists there. Now, another word for control is to regulate. If the state strongly regulates, in other words, strongly controls the private sector, then yes, it's as good as governmental ownership. You might like to believe that you are the private business owner. What worth is it if you claim that you are a private business owner, but you're being dictated to and controlled to produce what the state says, to produce how much the state says? So let's just say, for example, the government controls how much you produce, what you produce, how many people you can employ, how many hours they work, what your workers get paid. Maybe the state also controls what machinery your workers can use, what height they can work at. If you go through all of the regulations, who is it that's the real boss of the company? Is it the private company owner? Or is it the government who's controlling all of those things? Well, it's the government. That's the real owner of the company. That's the real owner of the means of production. After all, it's the state who's basically telling you how much to produce. It's the state that's telling you what gets produced and how much and who you can employ, etc., etc., and even how much you pay your workers. Nazi Germany wasn't some example of something of a free market. It wasn't some example of capitalism. Yes, the element of private ownership is capitalism, but strangling it half to death through all the socialist government regulations is the complete opposite of capitalism. Because what capitalism's about, and there's two types of regulation, folk. Number one, government regulation, which is in reference to that of socialism. As I pointed out before, socialism means state direction of the economy as a whole, whereas capitalism's not about, controlling through a government. It's basically through a free market. So, yes, Nazi Germany was a strongly collectivist movement. There's no arguing with this fact. The fact that he pulled off the mental gymnastics to try and differentiate that of Nazi Germany from collectivism and try to call that a individualist movement was just simply laughable, to say the least. Anyway, folk, if you've got any questions you would like to ask me, comment in the comment section below, and of course be sure to like the video, share the video, favourite the video, and of course thank you for watching. Talk to you later. Cheers.